the Cleveland Cavaliers. Joining us right now, analyst for your Sacramento Kings. And by the way, somebody that may have something in common with my daughter soon.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
UCSB grad, Kayte Christensen. Good morning, Katie.
Good morning, fellas.
Good morning.
Make you feel old that my daughter got into UCSB?
No, what makes me feel old about it is what year I went there.
Yeah. They still have the ocean then, though, right?
Not for long, apparently, but yeah.
Why should she go there? Give her.
Yeah.
What's the talking?
What's the elevator pitch, Katie?
To send Avery to UCSB.
Yeah. Why would you? You've known Avery since she was a baby. Why would you send her there?
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't know that I would, right? Like, I love the school. I love the campus. Like, I loved being there, but obviously I was there for very different reasons. Like, I went there to play basketball, and, you know, what does Avery want to do? You know, does it fit for her? I'll tell you what, she's not going to hate it if she goes.
Yeah. That's all we hear is the campus.
She's not going to hate it at all. Yeah. It is a just gorgeous campus. Yeah.
Also, yeah, it wouldn't be the worst place to visit your kid. Oh,
that's true.
I'll go to Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, we'll let you know if she's a gaucho or not, Katie. In the meantime, you are, in fact, a gaucho, and we're hoping the Kings don't get gauchoed tonight. I don't even know if that's a word. Cleveland's lost.
You tried.
Cleveland's lost 2 in a row. They've lost 12 all year, and they've lost 2 in a row. So let me ask you, both as an analyst and as an ex-pro, do you look at it as a good thing that they've lost 2 in a row, or is it, they'll be hungry? Yeah, okay. That's what we thought. All right.
No, yeah, 2 in a row. Have they? I don't think they've lost 2 in a row all season, right?
They did against, I think the Hawks or Jason, did they lose 3 in a row?
They had one weird stretch where they lost 3?
Yeah, they lost to the Hawks twice in a row, and then the Bucks or something. Yeah.
Yeah, well, as you can see, they're not infallible, but it's incredibly rare, so...
Yeah, but on the other side of things, Katie, I thought the other night, look, the Kings have a lot of good wins this year. What they did the other night to handle 2 different times of Sabonis going out in the same game, especially the second one when you knew it wasn't good based on his reaction. But Dave and I have been talking a lot about the end of the first quarter defensive group that was Lyles, LaRavia, Keon, Carter. And
it was DeRozan.
Yeah, it just that group was awesome. That was as good of an energetic defensive stretch that I've seen. What did you think of that group?
Oh, it was amazing. They just climbed up in them and tore them to shreds. I thought it was so good. Devin Carter had like 3 steals in I think 4 minutes during that stretch, and Jake LaRavia was, you know, obviously motivated and played incredibly well in the entire game. But you look at it, and that the difference in that game really through like 3 quarters was that 4-minute stretch. And really it was like a 3.5 minute stretch where they caused 6 turnovers in like 3.5 minutes. And, you know, there hadn't been a single turnover in that game yet by Memphis until that stretch. And it just really put them on their heels. And the bench, like, my keys going in the game, one of them was bench production, because Memphis obviously has the best bench in the league. Obviously, you know, it changes a little bit with Ja Morant out. Obviously, some guys step up to that starting role, but they're just so good. And they're a tough team to defend because they don't run a lot of pick and roll action, like the fewest screens set by any team in the league. And so schematically, things change because you're not in coverage, right? It's truly like you have to have your head on a swivel. You have to make sure you're in help. The second line of defense is there because it's a lot of ISO action. And so I thought they just did a great job of playing physical, applying pressure, and getting Memphis on their heels. And that was a huge difference in the outcome of that game.
37 points for the bench. Katie, I want to run a thought I've had all week because I know you'll not hesitate to slam it. But
okay.
and I'm going to do a typical long build up here. So I've had this thought this year that when you look at the Kings starting lineup and you compare it to, say, an Oklahoma City lineup, their starting lineups, that at first glance, like the Kings person for person, it's almost like they're more talented. Like they stand out a lot more, or at least they're in the neighborhood. And my thought has been that the Kings are put together like a really good fantasy basketball team, but when it comes to defined roles and when it comes to fit, they've struggled a little bit there. And what I saw, and I was so excited about that end of the first quarter, that was the whole ball game. And they were nowhere near their best, most talented lineup. But it seemed that Doug found a lineup where everyone had specific roles. You had DeRozan as the go-to guy. You had Carter and LaRavia jamming all over the place. Ellis does what Keon does, and Trey Lyles fits so well. Am I overthinking it that sometimes your best lineups are not necessarily your most, air quotes, talented?
I mean, it's an interesting question. I think every game has a personality of its own in that sense, and you have to have a good feel for the game and the situation as a coach. But what I do think is I think that as kind of time has progressed post, trade deadline, that Doug's getting a better feel for groups on the floor and like their purpose, what they do well. And that group is certainly not the most talented offensive group, like without a doubt, hands down. Like you don't look at it and think, hey, there's a ton of offense there, but they're one of the best defensive groups that he puts out there. And so when you have a great defense, it doesn't matter because you're scoring in transition. I mean, during that stretch, what they have, I mean, I think it was, I don't know, like a 14-4 run to end, and all of those points came in transition. It's like when you don't have to set up an offense and play against a set defense, it doesn't matter the talent because everyone in the NBA can score in transition, So I think it's oftentimes we look at scoring and all of those things. And this kind of goes to the Malik Monk conversation that had been going on the last couple of years and is still going on. Like, should Keon Ellis be in the starting lineup? Everyone has an opinion, a thought that they want to interject on that. But to me, you need scoring in each lineup, no matter who you put out there. DeMar was kind of the quote unquote, offensive weapon in that lineup. But like I said, like defensively, it doesn't really matter if you're creating easy buckets and you're not having to run set plays. So, I look at different groups of lineups, and we've seen so many different groups of lineups during this stretch. Those guys certainly have a chemistry when it comes to the defensive end. Like Trey Lyles is maybe the most underrated defender on this team, and I give him a ton of credit. And so things like that, they factor in to your best lineups, but there's certain times when you're playing against lineups, teams, so on and so forth, where your best lineup in that game might be your most offensively gifted lineup because maybe the defense for the other team isn't as stout. So, credit to Doug Christie for really starting to understand and utilize different groups at different junctures of the game and get the most out of them.
Jason, just to underline the point, by the way, Jaren Jackson Jr. Made a 12-footer with 5:09 left. 5:09 left in the first quarter. Mm-hmm. It was 22-21 Grizzlies. The Kings close on a 16-4 run.
Changed the game.
Changed the game completely,
It did.
Yeah. Katie, how about now? We do know for certainty we were really scared the other night when Sabonis, the way he reacted was probably the scariest part of that. It looks like he'll be reevaluated in 10 days. They're 3-6 without him. They're going to play several games now for sure without him. They'll be different, but what do you want to see from this group now playing without a guy that a lot of their best lineups are with Sabonis in it, so they'll be without him?
Well, it's brutal to get this news. I mean, obviously it's so difficult right now in the Western Conference, especially in that play-in grouping, because Kings really want to try. I don't think it's possible to get to 6. I mean, anything can happen, but they would need to play perfectly, in my opinion, and they'd need some help at this point from some teams above them. But I also don't see them falling out of the play-in. So it's about, trying to manage as much as possible without him. And I absolutely love what Valanciunas brings. And I'll be honest, if he wasn't on this roster post trade deadline, the Kings would be in a massive amount of trouble considering the injuries that Domas has sustained kind of in that period of time. But the one thing that they missed the most without Domas, and it's a gaping hole in my opinion, is his rebounding. It is absurd how JV is a big guy. He can rebound the ball. He's had multiple double-doubles. Like, he does his part. But Domas does so much on both sides of the ball, and he is so incredibly difficult to box out. And so I think, to me, that's where the biggest hole is, and it has to be done collectively. So that's what I'm going to kind of be, watching for in this stretch of games without him is how they make up for that.
Kayte, first off, Jonas Valanciunas, I couldn't agree with you more, has been an absolute godsend. Secondly, I wouldn't say lost in all the shuffle, because you mentioned he had 4 steals in like 30 seconds or whatever the hell it was. In fact, I just looked. Devin Carter played 11 minutes. He had 4 steals. His per 33 would be 12. That's a lot. Talk about the development of Devin Carter throughout the season, being the pick, the shoulder, G League. Really seems like he's starting to come through and figure it out now.
Yeah, I think that the hardest thing coming in and starting your NBA career with an injury and being so late, I think it was like the first 34 games or something that he missed, is you're really out of the shuffle. And offensively, there's an adjustment period coming from college to the NBA of learning how to be productive offensively. And he's certainly gone down to the G League and proven that he can score, but he hasn't proven it at this level. And so you kind of see the phases that rookies go through as they try to figure it out. And all of these guys were scorers in college, and you come in and it's different. And so he struggled in that aspect to me. And, he has one of the highest arching shots I've ever seen in the NBA. Yeah. And that's something that he has to try to adjust to, because it's proven when he's playing kind of at the NBA level versus the G League that that's really difficult to get that shot off. So I think the important thing for him and what he's figuring out is that his biggest impact right now can always be on the defensive side of the ball. And so he has come in with a purpose and intent on that end, and that's helped him a lot.
Have a great call tonight, Kayte.
Yes.
Hopefully, look, it's a tough matchup, but it was a tough matchup in Boston too, and that worked out. So good thoughts, good hopes, and hopefully they win or lose, and we hope they win. They come out and leave it all on the floor tonight. You'll be on the call tonight. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, fellas. Have a good one.
All right, you too. That's Kayte Christensen. We're late for a break. When we come back, let's just look at the Cavs real quick. What a season for them as we preview tonight's matchup. What